welcome to another episode of the Throwing Bagels Podcast. I am Chris Douglas, and I'm joined, as always, by the same crew, the same knuckleheads, the same old dudes. Kevin Mooney, how are you today?
I am great, Chris. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Jason Hamo, how are you?
I'm not old.
You're not
good,
old?
No.
Damn. Well, that's a story for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have a great guest coming up here on this episode of Throwing Bagels Podcast. We have the digital content manager, ABC 50 in Watertown, daily content manager, Last Word on Hockey, and a DJ and producer for Stevens Media Group. I present to you Dan Mount. Dan, how are you today?
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. How are you guys?
Doing very well. And of
Doing
course,
well.
Dan is also a fellow Oswego grad, for those that do not know. So, Dan, before we get into the hockey stuff, we want to talk about some things that occurred over the past couple weeks, really. Since you are located in Watertown, New York, we want to talk to you a little bit about the eclipse. Watertown was in the total path of totality last week. And as a digital content manager for your affiliate up there in Watertown of ABC, what was that experience like?
Hectic is one word if we want to go with that. Hectic. It was a lot of logistical, putting stuff together. People will ask questions like, where can I get eclipse classes? Where's the best spot to watch it? Can I watch it? Like we are on the Thousand Islands, so people were actually going on boat cruises to see the eclipse on a boat through the Canadian border, all that stuff. There were a lot of people that came from, I think some came from like Italy, South America came to our little neck of the woods. We had people who would got up at 3 a.m. from Staten Island, would drive up to the Thompson Park where the main party was. So it wasn't as big as the numbers thought were going to be, and had a little bit of clouds, but it was still an awesome, unique experience. I got to see the streetlights go completely dark. It was an awesome sight, So really, really a lot of fun to do that. A lot of fun to cover something like that. And the website numbers, I really appreciate that too.
I used to work with a guy who ended up in Pulaski, and I saw he was in Pulaski. I was like, I don't think I ever would have thought I would ever have seen someone like just go to Pulaski for something just for the hell of it. And I was like, what are you doing in Pulaski? He's like, it's in the path of totality. I was like, wow, Pulaski, New York. Okay. But Dan, what impact did the eclipse have on the city as a whole?
There was a lot of tourism dollars. A lot of people came up to, we don't really have like a large city, where have you, but a lot of people came up, I was managed to get myself into work at 7 a.m. and I parked myself there till everybody passed through around 5 o'clock, because the eclipse was around 3:20 was the moment of totality, and it lasted like 3.5 minutes. But hopefully some people did say they want to come back up again. The Thousand Islands are really nice. If you've gone on any of those boat cruises, they are really cool. But it's a unique experience, and I hope people liked our little neck of the woods and everything. I'm not a big city guy, but I like being up here. It's kind of in my home. And one thing that helps me with my job is I'm familiar with the area. Sometimes a guy takes a job somewhere and they don't know nothing about where they're from, but I know where I'm from and I know what people want,
So the question is, how much were the hotels charging up there?
$1,200.
What?
What?
I know a person who works at a hotel who was a manager. They would accidentally lose the reservations of some people and then find more and jack it up on some other people that were looking for last minute rooms and everything. Really unethical, but I've heard the practice before.
I heard stories. There was some hotel, I think, in the Syracuse area, canceled an entire wedding party that had been booked months in advance, so they could book, higher rates for the eclipse.
It happened in Buffalo.
That's horrible.
Oh, it happened in Buffalo too?
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah.
Unbelievable, man.
So
that's horrendous.
It's crazy.
It's really highly unethical, and I really highly hate it.
Yeah, I would say so. Dan, how was the traffic after the eclipse was completed?
Actually, a lot around the park and everything. It was a little hectic, but it started to filter out around 4:30, 5 o'clock. But it was the people who did the organizing did a really good job. It wasn't as painful as it could have been. They blocked off a couple streets near the park, put buses there. They had a plan, and they've been planning for over a year. You really got to give them, the mayor and them credit for what they did. They did a really good job.
So what was the internet traffic like for your station? I mean, obviously people just could have gone outside and seen it. Were people really like following it on the website?
A lot of the preparation, the lead up where you wanted to go, where you could view it, stuff like that, tips about the eclipse. And we've also had something really happen. I don't know if you've watched the Netflix program, the documentary, The Program, about what happened in Ivy Ridge. We've had a lot of traffic had to deal with that because it was a let's just say a kind of military-esque Catholic reform school and everything. If you watch the documentary, there's a lot of bad stuff that happened. A lot of kids, unfortunately. It was 45 minutes from my studio where we're at. If you take the drive on Route 37, that documentary is just heartbreaking. A lot of bad stuff happened. A lot of kids were let down, and that drove up traffic too. But the eclipse, to your point, Jason Epps, there was a lot of traffic on the lead up to, and stuff like that, because there was some cloud cover and people were going to the site because we had some live cameras and everything, because we work hand in hand with WSYR, our affiliation agreement. There was a lot of people watching it on the online. So
yeah, there was we noticed that Channel 9 in Syracuse had a couple of people at SUNY Oswego. I think they had someone in Watertown.
Yep.
In that area, and all over the place. So it was pretty well covered by a lot of the upstate New York media outlets. Yeah.
Yeah, our New York leads are really great. They have a good sense for news. So I would have liked it a little bit clearer, but I guess Plattsburgh got lucky,
Ick.
We don't like to talk about them.
That's a dirty word around here.
We still dislike them very
much. Let's shift gears. So as we speak, it's a Monday night. It kicks off the last week of the regular season for the NHL. So let's put your daily content manager of Last Word on Hockey hat on. What teams? I mean, and unfortunately, as we talk, the Rangers are playing their last game of the season, and if they win, they clinch the President's Trophy. If they lose, they get dropped to second. So we're not going to know what happens until after this podcast is already in the can. Right. But anyway, what teams do you see making their way to the final pairing in the Stanley Cup Final?
Well, I think the Rangers have a puncher's chance. And you have Igor Shesterkin, that gives you a puncher's chance. I like that Chris Drury was more subdued this deadline. He didn't go after the home runs like Patrick Kane and Tarasenko. He kept it pretty low key with like Jack Roslovic, of really good, and some of the acquisitions he got at the deadline. The only concern I have is the defensive core. I mean, I like Fox, I like Miller, but can Jacob Trouba keep up? Can the bottom pair do their job? Carolina's a good team. You always worry about them, especially the way Freddie Anderson has really rejuvenated himself from one heck of a story from that blood disorder and everything. Dallas scares me out west. Ottinger, and they've gotten a lot better since Tyler Sagan came back. They got Jason Robertson, that defensive core when they had a Chris Tanev at the deadline, Miro Heiskanen and Asa Lindell. They're good. That's a good group. Colorado, as always, Georgiev did backstop them to a Stanley Cup. Winnipeg, if Hellebuck gets hot, look out for them. The only thing I have concern about the Jets, can they score goals? Can they get power play goals? Can they cash in? You can't win too many 1-2 or 2-1 games in the playoffs. That's something. I mean, Hellebuck's a guy that can steal a game for you. And as always, those dreaded Vegas Golden Knights who've been hiding an all-star team on their long-term injured reserve.
You look at where the Rangers stand, and it's like even strength is really has not been a strong point for them, and that's really something that might come back to bite them in the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't want to get, because the way the matchups could shake out, you don't want to get near Tampa Bay. That would be bad, because their Tampa Bay is a really good team. I think they they could cause problems for whoever if they get Boston or Florida. If they get the second wild card, they're playing a team that's been in a playoff fight for a month. That might be a little easier, but you never say a playoff series is easy, especially if they get the Islanders.
Yeah.
The Islanders.
You're not
I think
like
all
that.
three or four of those games have been fist fights, pretty much. Because Patrick Waugh teams will play you hard no matter what. They might not beat you, but you're going to feel it in the morning. Playing the Islanders because Patrick Waugh has developed some really good teams. Look at the junior team last year in Quebec. They won the Memorial Cup with him. I think the Islanders are going to be a problem in the next couple of years. But, you want to hold on to first. I know people are worried about the President's Trophy curse, but I'd rather win that and then see how we shake out, But if you got Shesterkin, I think you got a chance. But they got to be better 5-on-5 for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned the President's Trophy, and it literally is a curse because they're the last team to win the Stanley Cup. That were also the President's Trophy winner was Chicago back in 2013. Why has it been so difficult for any President's Trophy team to win the Stanley Cup?
I don't know if it adds a target on your back Florida was a bad matchup for Boston because Florida could fly down the ice last year. That was the team, if you were the Bruins, you did not want to see in round one was the Florida Panthers because they could match up with them very well. I think sometimes the way the playoff format is now, it's a matchup problem, because I think nobody has won the President's Trophy in the Cup since the playoff format change. That's a problem, because you're playing probably a rival in round one, no matter what, And the team they're playing there is probably the team that's the number 16 seed or 15 seed overall. They got nothing to lose. They're playing with house money, Florida was playing with house money, and look what they did last year, It's just, if a team can do it, I think the Rangers could do it this year. But if you want that smoke, I know a lot of Carolina Hurricanes fans are like, we're perfectly fine not having the President's Trophy because I think Carolina, the 2-hole, whoever they get in the round one is a pretty much a walkthrough, because they have goaltending. They're coached really well with Rod Brindamore. They've got a really good defensive group. Dmitry Orlov's gotten a lot better, They're a really good team, and a team I think could come out of the East is the Hurricanes for sure.
The last time the Rangers did win the Stanley Cup in '94, they also won the President's Trophy. So listen, you never know, guys.
Yeah. Didn't they win the President's Trophy like recently, and it not go well for them either?
Yeah, but let's forget about that one. Let's forget about that one. That one doesn't count. Let's talk about 1994.
Yeah, I know.
But it's funny because the Hurricanes, right? As of right now, Hurricanes are playing the Islanders in the first round, which is I think it's a pretty good matchup for both teams. I think that's a series that could go 7 games very easily. You have the Rangers. Who are they going to play right now? Do they play Tampa? Which I hope they don't.
They probably will play Washington.
They're going to play Washington. Yeah, right now. But it's a toss up, right? Like the Islanders seem like they're going to clinch that 3rd spot. So if the Rangers, like Kevin said, if the Rangers lose tonight, they could drop into that 2 seed, and then they have to play the Islanders in the first round. And I'll tell you what, it's just one of those things. The Rangers never play well against the Islanders, or I should say the Islanders. It's just more the Islanders seem to step up their game more when they play the Rangers. And
the only time I've ever seen the Rangers kill the Islanders was 94.
94, yeah.
Complete sweep.
When they swept them in the first round. Exactly. They very rarely do the Rangers kill the Islanders. I mean, look at this season. They've had to come back in 2 of the 3 wins, like big comebacks. Like yesterday was a rough one. The outdoor game was insane, that comeback. Yeah. And then they lost that other game. They had to make a comeback, and they just fell short, So it's not a team I'd want to see in the first round if I'm the Rangers.
No, I think but the one thing you also concern is like who's going to get the spot between Pittsburgh and Washington. Do you want to see the Red Hot Penguins team come at you with Malkin and Crosby and Erik Karlsson? You want to see that coming at you.
Right. Exactly. And I'm surprised to be quite honest with you, the Capitals have even made it as far as they've had. I just didn't think they were good enough to even get to that last playoff spot.
The one thing that the Capitals did really well early is they were good defensively, and they just built off it. Spencer Carver has done a pretty good job coaching that team up, and a lot of that's on the back of Charlie Lindgren in goal. You thought they were going to go Darcy Kemper, but Charlie Lindgren and Alex Ovechkin's gotten hot at the right time. He's just been on a heater the last month or two.
Switching gears a little bit. So we've heard recently, within the last couple days, the Coyotes apparently are talking about moving or announced they're going to, I don't know if they've officially announced it yet, but seems like they've kind of told the players that they're going to be moving to Salt Lake City. How do we see a team working out there? Will they be able to survive out in Salt Lake? Is that much of a hockey hotbed?
There is a team. I think there's the Utah Grizzlies out there in the EC. It was been in the ECHL for a number of years. They have an owner that's got a lot of money in Ryan Smith. I mean, they're not going to be the poverty franchise Coyotes that are used as a dumping ground for your retired players like a Shea Weber or what have you. You know, they're going to spend money, and Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet said they're going to be active. You know, they're going to try to lure some players, and that makes them a wild card. Like, you got a Steven Stamkos who becomes a free agent. You've got other players that are free agents and everything. What does Utah do now? It's like, hey, we got all this cap space. You know, if Tampa Bay doesn't do right by Steven Stamkos, somebody could plunk down like $9-10 million on him. You know, Ryan Smith wants a contender right away. He doesn't want to wait for the Coyotes to develop. They've got some good young players developing, like a Logan Cooley and a Dylan Genther and some other good players. And Connor Ingram's a serviceable goalie in goal. You got some pieces there with the Coyotes franchise. You know, it's going to be a different name in Utah. They're going to change the branding because they're going to let Alex Marullo basically try within 5 years to get a building. They're going to try to expand back to Arizona. Basically, what they might do is they might inactivate the Coyotes and let Smith buy the contracts of all the players and the personnel that he wants to take to Utah. So they're going to contend to be a problem in free agency. I think it's going to work out just fine. I think the market's there. I think Salt Lake City is going to be. I think they're going to be a pretty important player, and I think they're going to be a success story.
What do we think the new nickname is going to be for the Utah, whatever they are? What are the mountaintops, the snow tops?
I could maybe go. I would like Mountaineers. Maybe be pretty cool.
Mountaineers is a good one. I like that.
Maybe Salt Lake City Saints or something.
Saints.
There is the old ECHL team called the Utah Grizzlies, but how would Memphis feel about that? But of course, they have the Utah Jazz, which I don't think there's much jazz in Utah, but what do I know? I think he's going to go with Utah. I think he's not going to go with Salt Lake City. So
interesting.
He wants to brand the whole state. I'd love to see Mountaineers or something. That'd be kind of cool, you know. But he's going to take a poll, and basically what's going to happen is the Coyotes naming stuff is going to be inactivated, while the current owner Marullo is going to try to see if he can win the land auction and try to get enough shovels in the ground within 5 years to resurrect the Coyotes.
How would that even work though? Like, I don't even understand. How is that a possibility that they're going to move to Salt Lake or, to Utah and then have the ability to come back later with a different owner?
Well, what happens is the NHL is going to buy the Coyotes franchise and then turn around and flip it to Ryan Smith. So they basically they're probably trying to work out a memorandum of understanding with Alex Marullo, the current Coyotes owner. Like, okay, we're going to give you this $1 billion. We're going to see if you can win this land auction. We're going to see if you can get shovels in the ground. We're going to try to give you right of first refusal because they want to go back to Arizona. It's like Bettman's windmill, like in Don Quixote. He wants to be in Arizona for some reason, even though it's failed numerous times.
It's like a breeding ground of failure. Like, when was they haven't been able to do a thing out there. They don't win out there. They can't build anything out there. I don't understand it. Why would you go to obviously they just went to Seattle. Why don't they go to I don't know, Portland? Right, exactly. You know what I mean?
There's a list of cities you could go to. Portland, Houston. You got Tillman Fertitta, the guy who owned the UFC, probably wanting a team. You got probably Dan Gilbert of Cleveland said he wouldn't mind trying. Quebec City's got a load of money. And a stadium that's ready to rock and roll. They had the Memorial Cup the last couple of years there. That's an NHL level arena in Quebec City. There you go. You got Kansas City. You got all sorts of places you could go.
Yeah,
but
I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I don't get why he wants to bet. It's like Bettman's windmill is like he wants Arizona for some reason. I know Phoenix is a big market and it's an emerging market because a lot of people are moving there, but it's been a comedy of errors with the ownership, that situation. No one who has owned the team has gotten it right, and if I play the NHL, like, okay, I think the wait a few years before we try again thing, this is the right path, but Marulo's got the right of first refusal, but you've heard the stuff about them, the hotel bills and stuff like that. Or if you've done any research on that, it's just like Jason's right. There's plenty of places like Portland to be a great market. Kansas City, Houston. Like I said, I thought Houston was going to be the team that would get the Coyotes because, like I said, Tillman Fertitta, the guy who owned the UFC, he owns the Rockets. He's got a lot of money just waiting. And he wants a team in Houston in the worst way.
I would love to see to see a team go back to Quebec at some point if that was, I just don't know. Will they survive out there?
You worry about the dollar. You worry about the money situation with the Canadian dollar, but Quebecor has a lot of money. the guys who respective ownership group of Quebec has a lot of money. But like I said, I think Houston would be my logical move would be Houston. Because like I said, Tillman Fertitta, as I mentioned, he has a lot of money, and look at how well the Rockets do, and I'd love to see the Houston Aeros return if you're an old AHL fan,
I would just was thinking just get out of a warm weather place, go ditch the warm weather and go to a colder place. Exactly. Arizona, not much of a hockey hotbed. I mean, besides Austin Matthews, and then Houston, like what's with the warm weather cities wanting these teams? Like I'm expecting more of like, the like the Portlands and the colder weather places to
Cleveland even,
Yeah.
You mentioned the hotel bill thing. So in case you missed that, if you're listening, the Coyotes would stay on the road. They would stay at hotels and then they wouldn't pay the bill. So, and they did that in multiple cities, I believe. So that's not a good reputation to have.
Yeah. And that's just ownership. Like Arizona actually is a very, I'm not going to say it's a good hockey town, but hockey is actually quite popular in Arizona. So it's not necessarily that people don't want hockey there. It's a cruddy ownership. Period.
You've seen the dance before. I mean, just like, okay, this is happening, that's happening. We've seen it before. They're stuck in a 5,000 seat arena, and as much as we hate Brad Marchand, he ripped them because, like, you're hurting Hockey Radio 11 and making our salary cap stay down artificially. Thanks for that, by the way. He's been chirping markets like that, can't hold teams out and everything. Hockey can work in a warm weather climate. Look at Nashville. Look at Tampa Bay. You want to know why it works? The arena's right downtown. You could walk. There's a lot of walk-up traffic to Predators games, no matter how good or bad they are. The ownership group, because remember, Nashville was this close to moving to Hamilton, but the ownership group that got a hold of the Predators really did a great job in marketing that team. Tampa Bay's doing really well. I think the Hurricanes are back where they should be because I got an owner, Tom Dundon, who cares. And arenas that are downtown in southern markets work. If Utah, Salt Lake City is going to be right downtown. It's going to work. It's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I feel like any of these places nowadays, all these teams to want to build in the downtown areas. Like there's so much more to do, especially in a smaller town, right? Like if you're downtown, that's where everything is. Why would you put an arena 15 miles outside of downtown?
That's the Ottawa Senators that.
Dude, seriously, 10 miles away in Canada. Come on, man.
Well, they want to go to LeBreton Flats, in downtown, which is in the downtown area. I mean, Ottawa's nice and everything. I've been there several times, but I don't want to have to drive out to Canada, like you said. It's like, what, 10, 15 miles away from the Ottawa proper?
It's 12 kilometers, just for the.
All right. And I know it's international.
I don't understand
podcast.
that kind of thing. Sorry, I don't get that. I don't understand what that means.
So Dan, you're wearing your Froggy 97 radio's t-shirt. You're a radio DJ / producer on top of your roles in TV and hockey.
It's like I'm back at Oswego with all the hats I wear.
All right. So how do you do that? What is your approach to juggling all those responsibilities and being a dad and a husband and all that?
I got really good support back home.
Yeah.
I also have a really good plan. I am organized. I'm not organized in much things in my life, but I'm organized in my work plan. Like I go in, I'll find a way to make it done, get it done. And I put copious amounts of time and research into stuff. Kevin, you taught me that as a broadcaster years ago. Put research in, put time in, and it'll work out for you. It's just a lot of good juggling. A lot of good people around me. And being very task oriented. And I didn't think when I took digital content manager, I thought I'd struggle a little bit, but it just came to me like nothing. I was like, and I have a staff. I have people I supervise, and my stepdaughter Haley was like, "Who made that unfortunate mistake?"
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back in time, Dan. What led you to your interest in broadcasting, and what led you to decide on attending SUNY Oswego?
I love sports from my Aunt Carol's ex-husband, Uncle Steve. He got to cover the Warriors. They were all out in the Bay Area. He covered the Warriors, the 49ers, the Giants, and he had a syndicated, before it was fashionable, betting column, like odds and stuff like that. And I loved hearing about his tales where he got to go to do this and he got to do that. One of his main stories is he got to go do the Warriors rookie camp. He pitched it to his editor and they loved it. So he got to, because he was a basketball player in college, he got to do that. And I loved hearing the stories about that. And fun story, he got into an argument with one of his bosses. He got demoted to covering high school golf. Ooh. Guess who was a high school golfer in the Bay Area at the time he was writing?
Tiger Woods?
Yes. And he got to do a lot of stories on him. He got to cover the U.S. Open the one year when they absolutely trucked the field. I think he went into his boss's office and said, "Thanks for the demotion, by the way."
Yeah.
But as for Oswego, I like the fact that a lot of people, I came from a school where I had a graduating class of 35.
Wow.
And a K through 12 of 350 kids. So I kind of wanted to get enough away from where I was, but also be close enough to home. And I loved when I went to the campus, even though I almost blew away into the sea. I loved it, and I loved the programs. And I would not be where I was if I wasn't got a chance to be so hands-on early on, because I know a lot of other schools, they make you wait. I got a chance to jump in right away at the radio station. I got my radio job thanks to our old buddy Nate Lehman.
Oh, Nate, yes.
Yeah, our old buddy Nate Lehman remembered that I would always be available to cover shifts. He goes, "Hey Dan, do you want to do the news for me on weekends and fill in?" And go, he hired me, which got the ball rolling to my old newspaper job, which got the ball rolling to this job. So you can thank Nate. I thank Nate all the time when I talk to him. I still communicate with him with his job. We exchange emails, Frank, when he has events and everything.
Yeah. And
I'm always appreciative of what my old buddy Nate Lehman did for me to get me into this career and talking to you guys today.
Yeah, I know I was on the WNYO executive board with Nate. He was the medal director and I was sports director. And
yes.
Great job.
Didn't during free format week we have Genesis versus Slayer, I believe?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, what a callback. That's amazing that you remember that.
Kevin would play Genesis and Nate would play Slayer. They would go back and forth.
Yes, we were pretty competitive back then.
You guys would in the studio together. You'd have Genesis v Slayer, and it was hilarious. I made time when I saw the schedule down the Hewitt Union. I'm like, okay, I gotta listen to the radio then because I gotta hear how this works, and it worked. Amazingly enough.
Yeah, he's been in Watertown for he's originally from Lowville, and now he's in Watertown now, and he had a great career in radio. I think now he's in the nonprofit sector.
Yeah, he works for BOCES in Jefferson Lewis County. He's like the main media spokesperson. So I get a lot of communications from him, and he always is still very nice, very, very friendly, very cordial, like he always is. You wouldn't think a guy who likes heavy metal is as cool as Nate is, but he is. He's. I will say to him until I die, hey, like he is the reason I have a career in broadcasting up here.
That's fantastic. Oswego grads, man, we're all over the place.
So we're all, and we take care of our own.
That's right.
Of course, it's the only way to do it.
So what did you enjoy the most about your experiences at Oswego?
Like I said, I think I like getting a chance to do things early. It's like not having to wait in line. And being hands on. Like for freshman year, having a shift, even though it was like 2 a.m, I still enjoyed it. And being ready to go and like getting great people like Maria. We shout out to her; she's great. I still talk to her a lot. Maria Lee. All sorts of great people like meeting got people like you guys, and you guys were very helpful to me. I enjoyed calling play-by-play on hockey. I don't know if I could hold a candle to Kevin, but or Joe Yurden or nothing, but
sure
I enjoyed that so much and everything. Like that was like one of my favorite things was doing hockey play-by-play up in the hostile confines up in Plattsburgh. I think I've the box of other rinks like Geneseo, where Brockport, where you had to put the phone line in through the weight room.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Also,
Potsdam had that like balcony you had to climb up a fire escape ladder to get into,
I had to broadcast a game by myself. So my play-by-play, my color partner Joe Kelleher was busy that weekend. He had a family commitment. I had to lug everything up by myself onto that balcony. It's like, please don't die, please don't die, please don't die.
And what did you enjoy? Like, what did you enjoy other than the radio side or the TV side when you were there?
Meeting a lot of people, getting an experience of like a really, I enjoyed my time down there. Even though I took a long vacation between graduating, I still got it done, and that thing, my degree is hanging up in my office. I am so proud of it. That I worked hard. I had, great backing from my dad, Charlie, who was fantastic. I don't know if you guys met him. I think you might have a couple times. He was always there at every game, no matter what. Even though I was broadcasting, he would come. He'd make the 45-minute to an hour trek to come down and everything. And I love people I met down there. A lot of great people, a lot of friends I'm still friends with to this very day from school, and I love the fact my college roommate was my best man at my wedding, Devon, he was, and I love the movie marathons where Chris and I would play FIFA against each other.
I think we also had a NHL tournament as well at one point, a War of the Worlds, I think we called it.
Nice.
The atomic war.
That's right.
Yeah, we're putting a lot of inside jokes, kids, in this one.
So, Dan, the thing we love to ask our fellow graduates from SUNY Oswego is, the food situation in the dining halls, the food situation in Oswego. As you know, we were very, very big on the chicken patty sandwich. I'd imagine you also enjoyed the chicken patty sandwich, but we'd like to know what you put on your chicken patty sandwich.
Oh, man, you're making me go back in time. I always have lettuce, tomatoes, and pickles. And it depended on my mood what the spread would be. Would I put mayo on it, or would I put like honey mustard on it sometimes? Just depended on my mood. It's like I wanted to try something different. But I would always go with mayo and stuff like that as my standard. But if I wanted to be adventurous, I would go honey mustard.
Honey mustard and pickles actually not a bad combination.
No, definitely, it's a clutch combination.
What about off campus? Were you a big sub shop guy? I think we've been to the sub shop at some point together. Pretty sure.
Yes, I was also a fan, and I think a shout out to my old buddy Mark Cohn for this. The appetizer at the Woodshed, the sampler platter with the pizza logs and the all sorts of other bar goodies, and everything, which was key after a night of spirited good times. The sampler platter with all the onion rings, the French fries, and stuff at the shed was my go-to, sometimes, but the sub shop classic, you can't go wrong with that. But that one was a low key. And you would avoid the people that went to Dunkin' Donuts. You would avoid the people that went to Subway. You would avoid the people that would go to the. A lot of people went to Pavone's for that like cheese pizza slice. And I wouldn't do that. That was like it was okay, but I was like if you're really desperate. But that was my go-to was the Shed that sample fire because if you didn't eat all of it, you had stuff left over for the next day.
Right. I think that's a Throwing Bagels first. The mention of the Shed.
I mean, what I used to eat at the Shed is the rice balls, the pizza
balls.
balls.
I remember those. Nice ball.
Those were good.
See, my go-to, it was the stadium, right? It was right by McDonald's. It's called Cheap Seats now, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
that is, you're correct. Yep.
Back then they had the loaded cheese fries. It was like a literal 2 pounds of fries covered in melted cheese and bacon. And you had the ranch. And I'm like, oh, this was so good.
That was
they didn't open up until like our junior senior year, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think it was what year did the Mets and Yankees play in the World Series?
That was 2000.
It's 2000, yeah.
So I think they opened the year before that because I remember watching the Rams Titans Super Bowl there.
Yeah, so it's my senior year probably.
I remember karaoke night there as well.
That's right.
That was a clutch meal too. The loaded cheese fries was a clutch meal.
I don't think I can even look at that thing now.
No.
I'll gain 5 pounds just looking at it.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Does it come with a free angioplasty?
Yeah. These days, yeah. Because we're all old now, right?
We are
yes,
old.
we're all old and have high cholesterol, high blood pressure. Yikes.
Oh man. And so Dan, how did you kick your career off? Like when you graduated from Oswego, like what happened after that?
Well, I was doing a customer service job, but I wanted some part-time hours. And I was at a job fair and I saw Nate. And he's like, hey, did you want to do some news stuff for me? And like on the weekend? And sure. And I would pair up with another Oswego grad named Riley Keenan, who's in the probations department now in Jefferson County. So we would take turns alternating. I would fill in and stuff. And we would put the stories on the website that we worked at and everything, that we would put all the stuff in. There's one thing Nate said I was really good at. I knew how to write for broadcast and I knew how to write for the website. He goes, you're very good at this whole, because it's different. It's always different. People don't tell people like, I'll just rip the story that I write. No, you can't rip the story you read on air. You have to change it up, And it led me to my job at the Watertown Daily Times. And I was a sports reporter till the July of 2023 last year. I got to cover state tournaments like wrestling. That was the thing I loved the most, was going to Albany and covering the state wrestling tournament, because we had a really good group of wrestlers up here. We got guys that are going Division I, where I'm from, like Virginia and all sorts of. I got to cover a state championship basketball team, Copenhagen. They won the small schools title. I really enjoyed doing that. Cross country, I had to go like 4 or 5 years in a row to the state cross country championships. I love that job, but unfortunately, the way the newspaper business is, But when I got my notice on June 1st last year, so I started looking. First name I put is ABC 50, and they called me back like within 2 days. I was out of work a total of 1 day before I got that job. So
that's really cool, and
I
very
got my
lucky.
feet pretty quickly. And I didn't think I could do supervising, but here I am, and I'm doing pretty well. And we've had the most traffic on our website in years since I've taken over, So, that Oswego education is useful.
That's awesome.
Well, Dan, we really, really appreciate your time today. We appreciate you joining the podcast, and best of luck to you.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure. Good to talk to you guys again.
And that was Dan Mount, fellow Oswego grad and digital content manager at ABC 50 in Watertown, among other things, including daily content manager of Last Word on Hockey. And he's also with the Stevens Media Group. We really appreciate Dan's time. Thanks, Dan, for coming on. We started the show off by talking about the eclipse, and I was curious about the traffic And the reason I was curious about the traffic is because I had a friend of mine that came out here from the Albany area. She was telling me that after the eclipse and after she got home, there were people that went up into the Adirondacks, the Plattsburgh area, and really the North Country that took 6 hours to get back down into the capital region from that area. That's insanity.
How long does that normally take, Chris?
From Albany to Plattsburgh is about 2.5 hours.
Oh man,
ish. Because it's like 3.5 hours in Montreal. So
okay,
yeah.
Jeez,
and that's insane.
I heard so Syracuse to Cortland is about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I was hearing it was taking people 2.5 hours to get from Syracuse to Cortland after the eclipse. So yeah, a lot of people up in this neck of the woods last week. I did, by the way, check in with Professor Michael Rickey at SUNY Oswego, and he mentioned that the students stayed where they were for the most part. They didn't scramble to Watertown or Buffalo. They just stuck it out at SUNY Oswego.
It looked like they were all just like everyone was just sitting out in the wide, in the open, right by the campus center. It looked like that's where they were reporting from, and like I saw, a lot of video of a lot of students just sitting out there. But it looked like, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't as cloudy as they expected. So I guess they got some decent shots of it.
Yeah. It was much cloudier here in Syracuse during the eclipse. It was like we could barely see it at times. If you get a break in the clouds, like, oh my God, there's an eclipse, and then behind clouds again.
It was cloudy here. It was cloudy down here. I mean, obviously we didn't have the whole thing. We was like, I think it was like 80-something% or something like that. But my kids, they got like glasses at school. They gave all the kids glasses, so I was able to like look at it through them. But my son didn't get a chance to see it because he goes to this aftercare program at the school, and they wouldn't let the kids come outside, even though they had glasses. They wouldn't let the kids come outside because they were afraid like at least one of the kids would not wear the glasses and look straight at the sun and they're liable for it, so they wouldn't do it. I was like, it was like, oh come on, like the kids literally they gave the kids the glasses for the reason, and they didn't let them do it. I felt bad for these kids. My son and by the time I took him out and picked him up, like it was too cloudy to see it anymore at that point.
That's a bummer.
So, yeah, he wasn't thrilled.
We didn't see anything in Cortland.
Really?
The clouds came in.
Nothing at all?
Nothing. I mean, I was outside for maybe a minute or so, and I didn't. And it was cloudy like pretty much the whole afternoon.
I mean, do you want to know what happened or?
No, I think I got it.
No spoilers, please. No spoilers. I DVR'd it. Now here's a question: if it's cloudy and you look straight up at the sky, nothing happens.
No,
right? Like can't hurt yourself,
right? Because just like on any other normal cloudy day, if you're looking up for the sun, you can't see it. Your eyes will be fine.
Imagine that. Like how could you still go blind because somehow it like sneaks through? You're like, I didn't even see it. And I'm still blind now.
Well, I think that'll do it. How about that?
I will do it.
Yes. I will do it. We're done. For this edition of the Throwing Bagels podcast, thank you again to Dan Mount, fellow Oswego grad, for joining us. Thank you, as always, for listening. Keep tabs on us, throwingbagels.com. You can email us, throwingbagels.podcast@gmail.com. We are on the socials on our website. Check them out. Threads, right? Insta, the Facebook,
the IG.
Yes.
LinkedIn, even. We're all over the place, man. Come on.
Right.
Follow us. Give us a follow. Okay. Please.
And smash that subscribe button on YouTube.
Yes, Chris. Thank you. So we did I don't think we've officially made that announcement. So we are now on YouTube. So please find us there at Throwing Bagels. And all of our podcasts are up there as well. So you can listen. And as Chris said, smash that like button and subscribe.
That's right.
Greatly
minus the video, unfortunately.
No video. Yes.
No video. Not yet. Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Not yet. We'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah. Not until we have cool backgrounds, like all the cool people on all the cool pods.
If you want to pay for it, hit us up.
Yeah, by all means. We're cool with that. Well, no shame here.
That's right.
Money.
Give us your money.
That's right.
we have a studio we need to name.
That's right. That's right. Yes, Jason, you're so right.
500 days and counting until the opening of the new Hewitt Hall on SUNY Oswego's campus. Cannot wait for that. That's going to be a great moment.
It will be. Especially when we'll be the first microphones to be on and talking into them.
All right.
That's what I heard. I heard it. They told us that.
Ish.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see. We'll just keep hammering it, right, Jason?
Hammer it home until they say yes. Like a sledgehammer.
Chris, it's been a pleasure.
Kevin, as always.
Jason.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.